Alrighty, so a rare news of the week episode on this Friday afternoon. I know it's usually I don't do one of these on Friday because that's usually reserved for the preview. Although I'll do the preview video after this video as well. So a familiar name is coming back to MLS. Remember Josef Martinez? Well, we heard the last of it. It seems like that's not the case anymore, as Columbus is now the latest team is going to take a chance of. Man, I remember when Josef Martinez, when he was so good with Atlanta, I thought he was going to really make himself a legend with Atlanta. He's going to stay there for a bit and maybe even potentially break the all-time goal scoring record that currently owns by Wanda itself. But he's kind of been bouncing around the league. There's been a couple of teams that he has bounced around, and now it seems like Columbus is latest stop. Now, for those of you who wonder, do I regret that the Quakes let go of Josef Martinez? No, I don't think the it was the wrong decision that the Quakes, of course, letting go of Josef Martinez. Here's the thing about Josef Martinez. He's not a guy that I think is washed up yet when it comes to goal scoring. He can still be a prolific goal scorer. We saw it during the time with the Quakes of how prolific he is still in front of goal. And we saw a little bit of the old Joseph that we know during his time with Atlanta. The biggest issue with Josef Martinez is that he doesn't track back. And we saw it last season with the Quakes. The reason why the Quakes had such a bad defense is just a combination of the fact that their back line was pretty bad, but also the fact that they're getting overrun in the midfield because none of those guys on the attacking end is willing to track back. Both Chico and Josef Martinez was an absolute passenger when it comes to tracking back, and it's no wonder why this season, when you look at how the Quakes have been, at least for the first half of the season, when they actually have strikers and attacking player that is willing to track back and do the work as well, you can see the midfield is not getting overrun. That's what we saw during that time. And knowing that this is a Columbus team that I know they desperately need a number 9. I mean, with the late with the way that we saw earlier this season with Abu Ali not being available for the rest of the season, they're looking for that replacement. And since their new signing Brands Mendes has looked really good, and it feels like he's the perfect Diego Rossi replacement, you knew that they need another attacking player to continue to make that attack click. And I think Josef Martinez can definitely be that guy. Though again, he's not going to be a guy that's going to bring you any defensive structure, and that's kind of the thing I do still worry about this Columbus team. As good as this Columbus team has been under Laurent Courtois on an interim basis, and it feels like Nancy Ball is being reintroduced to the team, they are still a team that is a little bit vulnerable at times on the defensive end, and adding Josef Martinez is not going to really solve that issue whatsoever. But at least it will at least make their attack much more fun to watch. And again, it's hard to believe how this Columbus team, the fortune has turned. They went from a team that looked like a pretty boring team and a frustrating team on the attacking end to now all of a sudden they started to have some good attacking pieces, and it feels like the retool that they're doing in the middle of the season has really worked out so far. Now, CF Montreal, they have officially signed Alexis Sanchez as the DP. So talk about throwback name. He definitely has some throwback names when it comes to number 9s getting signed by MLS team. Remember Alexis Sanchez? Remember his dominant run with the Chilean national team? Won a couple of Copa America with the Chilean national team in 2014 and 2015. Or I'm sorry, 2015 and 2016, respectively. That is, of course. They won the Copa America on home soil, and then they followed that by winning the Copa America Centenario the very next year in New York against none other than Lionel Messi, Argentina the team as well. And we also know that he did very well during his time with Arsenal, less so during his time when he was with Man U as well. But yeah, it's a bit of a throwback back name that is. Now, obviously, he is going to be nowhere near the quality of what we've seen before. Some have said that this is he's been kind of started been washed up, and this is where making a DP. This feels like a very MLS 1.0 kind of approach. And I'm not surprised that's kind of the case with CF Montreal. This is the team that has kind of lagged behind when it comes to the way that they approach signing. That is kind of the reason why Montreal fans are kind of frustrated. The fact that this team is not making any progress whatsoever, and I don't know if signing Alexis Sanchez is going to move a needle, especially on a DP contract as well. That feels like a huge waste of DP contract, especially for a guy that, again, I mean, he might bring some still have some left in the tank to at least get something going on the attack. That's kind of one area that they desperately needed. But is it gonna really propel this attack? I don't think so. Now, the LA Galaxy, they signed former Barcelona midfielder Sergi Roberto as well. Remember him as well, a guy that everybody remember him scoring that crucial 6 goal against PSG That is in that Champions League, in that crazy Champions League comeback as well. Albeit it was a very controversial second leg that is, but nevertheless, he scored that crucial goal as well. He's been a guy that's been kind of a legend with Barcelona. He's been with the team for a very long time. Eventually moved on, kind of been bouncing around the league. I think last we heard he was with Como in Serie A as well. But yeah, there's no doubt that there's a rumor that when you have guys that have been kind of having a pretty good career in Europe. Seems like MLS might be the next destination. And for the Galaxy, it's a decent signing. It feels like the Galaxy are thinking about the future. As I said before, it just kind of feel like the Galaxy need to make some move this summer transfer window. They need to, of course, trying to build the structure. It's pretty obvious that I don't think this season they're going to really go anywhere. They're thinking about next season once they get Ricky Pooch back, at least kind of start to build the dangerous attack that we know for as well. And even though I know Sergio Roberto is not what he used to be, he still could be a decent contribution to this Galaxy team itself. Now their hated rival LAFC have also signed a player. They signed for Emilio CF from Mainz on loan from Bayern Munich as well. Now this is clearly a signing that boosted their forward depth, but it's also a signing that maybe signaled the end of Jeremy Boasi during his time with LAFC. It's safe to say that Jeremy Boasi time with LAFC has been a huge disappointment. He has just, even though he has still getting some minutes, he just have not looked like the same guy as it. He looks like he is a guy that is clearly washed up and a guy that most likely they probably might be out of a job with LAFC at the end of the year. So obviously they need some depth in terms of that spot. I mean, they can't just solely rely on Son and Bawanga in terms of the attacking spot. They need some help, and this guy can maybe bring that at least in a depth perspective. Now, Minnesota, they are bringing back AZ Jackson on loan from a club in Poland that I'm not even gonna attempt to pronounce. When it comes to me pronouncing Polish names, especially some of these tough one, I'm just gonna absolute butcher it. Although I will say with this Polish team, I did heard that they were in the Europa League, if I'm not mistaken. They actually beat Rangers in one of the Europa League qualifying game as well. So this is not some unknown Polish team that is. This is a Polish team that is actually pretty decent. Now, it's kind of interesting that AZ Jackson is going back to Minnesota. I'm getting a very Caden Clark kind of vibe, isn't it, with AZ Jackson going back to Minnesota? And the reason why I say that is that, when Caden Clark, of course, gone to the Red Bulls, he did pretty well. Then he got his move to Europe, didn't look so good. And, when he returned to the Red Bulls, wasn't able to capture that form. And then, we were hoping that coming back from Minnesota, it was going to be a little bit different, especially it was pretty clear that Minnesota should have never let go of Caden Clark in the first place, and yeah, it didn't quite work out whatsoever. So I don't know if this is the same case for AZ Jackson, especially this is another guy that we should have never let go in the first place. The potential was definitely there, and unfortunately, he was kind of part of a lot of the youngster that back in when the Loons was still underage, when he tends to not like to play youngster. This is a team that has always have trouble when it comes to producing some good young talented as well coming out of the academy, and AZ Jackson was kind of the latest victim in terms of that. So now him going back to Minnesota and maybe need help at least on the attacking end. Honestly, I'll take anyone when it comes to needing help on the attack, especially in terms of the goal scoring department. Which with the way that AZ Jackson has had his issue when it comes to finishing, that's maybe is a little bit of a concern. That is that going to really move the needle in terms of helping this Loons attack that is just absolutely horrendous so far in these last month or two. I mean, the goals have just completely dried up this team, and that they need any attacking help that they can have. So they're hoping bring back a guy that they probably should have never let go in the first place might actually help that. Now, Vancouver, they have announced that they have signed Serbian midfielder Alexis Sivakovic from OFK Belgrade. Now, from what I heard, it seems like this is potentially the replacement for Sebastian Berhalter. It's a little bit of an underwhelming replacement as well, but there's no doubt that there are some potential of him, at least from what I heard. So yeah, we'll see how, of course, he does. I mean, obviously, no pressure in terms of him trying to replace what Sepp Berhalter did to meant to this team. I mean, that, as I said, that feels like it's a huge loss for the Whitecaps. It really feels like the Whitecaps are missing the presence of him in the midfield, and this, of course, is once again another reason why the MLS schedule is moving to a European calendar, because you have this situation of teams losing their key talent in the middle of the season and can really derail a season. We saw that happen with Minnesota last year, losing Tani in the middle of the season and sort of derail their chances of maybe going deeper. Maybe this might be the same case with Vancouver as well. Now, the New York Red Bulls, they have signed Miguel Jimenez on a permanent deal, and this is not a big surprise. He's been pretty impressive in his limited debut. I remember when he made his debut, he definitely made himself a name. I believe he scored a brace in that game as well. And, what's kind of interesting with the Red Bulls, they have a lot of depth in terms of that number 9 position. I mean, they have Choupo-Moting, Miguel Jimenez, and even Julian Hall as well. I'm gonna assume Julian Hall is still gonna be the number 9 for this Red Bull side. It seems like Michael Bradley really liked to play him, and there's no doubt that I'm not surprised that's the case. He's really having a breakout year. We knew that this kid has a lot of potential, and he's definitely showing it, at least in the first half of the season. But don't forget about this guy here, Jimenez. I mean, I'm pretty sure that he might get his minutes coming off the bench. You also wonder, does that mean maybe Choupo-Moting time with the Red Bulls are probably about to be done? And I think that might be the case, considering he has rarely featured for Michael Bradley's side. Michael Bradley tends to love to play his kids as well. He doesn't really play his older guys, like what we saw under Gerhard Stuvert, and that's kind of get to a point where if you're Choupo-Moting, I'm pretty sure you're kind of getting frustrated. You're not getting minutes like you used to do, and I have a feeling that he might be on his way out, especially with this latest signing as well. Now, moving on, in terms of the next news, talk about players that's going to be moving on to European teams. Starting off with St. Louis, have announcing that they have transferred Marcel Hartel to Hannover 96. Now, for those wonder how in the world does St. Louis decide to let this happen like that, that feels unimaginable that they let go of probably their best attacking player this season in the middle of the year. Well, it was rumor suggesting that it feels like he is a bit homesick, and that he has some unfortunate family issue that he has to deal back in Germany. And obviously, as it is the case, family is always important, and that if a player feels a little homesick or have some family issue back home, a club will always respect the player request. And yeah, for Marcel Harto, it's sad that of course has to be the case, and I'm pretty sure a lot of St. Louis fans gonna miss him. He was such a good player, and this is another example of how the current schedule has really screw over some teams in terms of losing their best player in the middle of the season, and hence that's why I'm so glad that we're not going to have that issue, at least starting into to next season as well. And yeah, we'll see how St. Louis, of course, can replace him. Like I said, that is a huge piece that they're going to miss. I mean, I know St. Louis are starting to maybe continue to think about getting more attacking pieces, but to lose that big of a one, especially in the midst of them having kind of a really great comeback season. I mean, this has been one of the harder team in the league for the past couple of months, but now it will be very challenging of losing Marcel Harto. And even though they still have some good attacking pieces, we've seen before where when one team loses their one of their more important attacking pieces, it can really derail a team season. Now, the Houston Dynamo, they have officially transferred Ezekiel Ponce to Elche. So obviously, it feels like the Ezekiel Ponce question of whether or not if he's going to be moving on. This has been a guy that for the past year or two, the Dynamo has cannot wait to potentially get rid of. I mean, he is a guy that clearly just has been a huge disappointment ever since the Dynamo bought him, and with the way that Guilherme has really excelled this season, Ponce time with Dynamo was probably pretty much shutter, and the fact that they were still able to get something out of it and able to get a move for him to go to Europe and for a La Liga club, not bad. I mean, in a Houston Dynamo perspective, it does good business. The Houston Dynamo, that is. Imagine I've said that a couple of years ago. That's how things have changed for this Dynamo team. That's what happened when you actually have an ownership group and a front office that is competent, unlike the previous Dynamo ownership group that is. And then the New York Red Bulls have officially transferred Gustav Berggren to Lech Poznan in the Polish league as well. And this one makes sense as well. Berggren just never really settled during his time with the Red Bulls, and with the way that they're trying to open up an international spot as well. This, of course, make perfect sense as well. Now, moving on to some transfer rumor that is. So, Atlanta United, they definitely dropped a bit of a bombshell today. There was a report saying that they're looking to sign Swiss international Brem Imbolo. Now, Brem Imbolo, I remember how originally there was a lot of potential that he could be a really good player as well. Didn't really quite work out that way, but still, he is a guy that is a mainstay, at least with the Switzerland national team. That is, we saw him play in the World Cup. That is, unfortunately, we remember in the last World Cup, or the World Cup that just happened here in the U.S., is all remembered in terms of that red card incident that happened against Argentina. But he's still a very decent player. That is, though I can also see why maybe some Atlanta fans are a little skeptical because especially for the amount that they're potentially trying to get him, it's very similar to the Emmanuel Latelaf kind of amount that is, and they're worried that this is going to be Emmanuel Latelaf 2.0 again with the way that they're promised to get a guy that seems like has a lot of potential to work out in MLS, and yeah, he absolutely flounder as a resort. So we'll see whether or not that might be the case. Again, this Atlanta team, they have so much problem right now. I know some people are thinking, why are they focusing on the attack? Wouldn't they be focused more on their midfield or even on their defensive end as well? Well, in some way they have focused mostly on their defensive end. Unfortunately, it hasn't really quite worked out whatsoever. I mean, they're just really hoping that eventually one of these signings is going to hit. I mean, it's crazy how that this team has spent so much money. This is a crying example of why sometimes money doesn't actually buy you success in this league, and Atlanta has been a peak example of it, and they're just hoping that this is finally the time that it will, of course, will hit. If not, this is another example of Atlanta doing the definition of insanity of trying to get some big name player for a big amount of money, but it turns out to be a huge flop, either because of the way that he doesn't adjust the same system of MLS, or the fact that the team structure that Tata Martino is running is just not working whatsoever. Now, Rangers is report to submit a $10 million bid to sign Timbers striker Kevin Kelsey as well. Now, for the Timbers, this is very tempting to take it, isn't it? Especially with the way that Kevin Kelsey, this is probably the best form that he has had in a Timbers jersey since he had a pretty good spell during his time with FC Cincinnati as well. And again, it's very tempting for the Timbers to take it. I guess the reason why they probably won't take it is the same reason why I said about how a lot of these teams they're trying to keep their talent. I know they're going to get a huge offer from Europe, but they want to keep them because you never know. I mean, the Portland Timbers have been a revitalized team under Jack Cassidy, and now they're hoping that can be the same case with Marty Cifuentes taking charge of this team for the very first time in league play this weekend. But yeah, they're definitely trying to keep Kevin Kelsey and a guy that I know the risk of keeping him is that you might not get this a similar offer like that either in the next transfer window or maybe even next summer as well. But with the way that he's definitely been one of the more important attacking pieces to this Timber side. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that the Timbers they maybe have no interest in terms of selling him unless if the offer is big enough. I have a feeling they're probably going to be asking at least 12 or $15 million for him, and maybe they might think about it. Speaking of $50 million offers, so FC Cincinnati rejected a $15 million bid for Kevin Denke from Hull City as well, and this is also the same Hull City team that recently signed Lucas Harrington to a huge amount of money as well, record breaking amount of money as well. One of the most expensive transfer outgoing in MLS, definitely the most expensive in Colorado Rapids history as well. And now they're looking to try to continue to splash that cash to try to get Kevin Danke as well. And it makes sense the fact that Whole City is really splashing out the cash. This is a team that recently just got promoted back to the Premier League, so there is a reason why they're definitely splashing big, and they're hoping that finding these MLS GM can really help their causes, at least their survival, to be in the Premier League after getting promoted. But obviously, as I said, it's the same thing I said about the Portland Timbers. For Cincinnati, there is no way in hell they're thinking about selling Kevin Denke unless if the offer is good enough. 50 million is clearly not enough for Kevin Denke. I mean, especially how much they bought him in the first place. I would think wouldn't that be a bit of a loss? I think they bought him for like $18 million. That there's no way they're gonna take a net loss for Kevin Denke, especially of how important he meant for the Cincinnati team. So I am not surprised the fact that they flatly rejected that bid. There's no doubt that he's at least worth 20 or 25 million dollar. And again, Cincinnati would be stupid if they decided to take a bit of a guy that is by far one of their best attacking friend, and also taking a bit of a net loss in the process as well. Now, the Vancouver Whitecaps, they are also rumored to set to sign Canadian youth international Imre Fortsing from CPL side Vancouver SC. It's kind of interesting the fact that he gets to stay in the same city as well, playing in the CPL side in Vancouver, that is. And, if he is going to sign, there's no doubt that he is going to be more for depth pieces. Though, one thing I will say that Vancouver has done a really good job recently, especially under Jasper Sorensen. They have developed some really good young Canadian talented player. I mean, most of these Canadian players has looked really good under Jasper Sorensen, and they're started to really become a team that a couple of years ago we wouldn't think that the Whitecaps would be a good team when it comes to developing some good young talented Canadian player, but now it's completely different. We have seen some really good players that they have developed there, and not just Canadian player, but even other young players that is on this team that you got kind of forget that this Whitecaps team is relatively young. Like a lot of their players are a mix of some veteran players, but there are also some very uh young talented player that they can definitely sell for a huge amount of money. I mean, they already did it with Sebastian Berhalter. I have a feeling there's going to be a couple more that they might potentially be doing in the near future as well. So yeah, wouldn't be surprised. He might turns out to be really good for the Whitecaps because that's what they've been doing lately, and that's what Jasper Sorensen has been doing a great job in terms of developing this team to be be an absolute juggernaut in MLS for the last 2 seasons or so. Now, moving on to injury news. So this has got to be bad news, and this is why I said before. I feel like for the Seattle Sounders, they got to have some serious conversation about Pedro de la Vega, and we kind of knew this was going to happen with the way that, as good as Pedro de la Vega have shown at times, and the key word is have because it hasn't been very often. We have seen the potential of what Pedro de la Vega can do. He is pretty much an injury riddle player. He is basically an IR machine. The fact that he cannot stay even barely 3 or 4 games on the pitch without getting an injury, and now it seems like that quad injury that originally was fearing from Brian Schmetzer. It seems like not only it's been reactivated, but now it's going to be serious enough where he could be done for the season. And like I said, if you're the Seattle Sounders, I mean, I know Pedro de la Vega when he's healthy, he can be a dynamic player, but he's just never been healthy. And it's got to a point where when you're never healthy, the old saying, availability is the best ability. Unfortunately for Pedro de la Vega, he's just never been available, and that has really kind of harmed this Sounders team, in a season where this has just been a season of hell when it comes to injury riddle season for the Sounders. They are suffering injury, almost rivaling to what we saw in 2021 with the Columbus Crew, just being hit with multiple injuries every single day that is. And yeah, this of course is the latest setback. And again, I will not be surprised if the Sounders are thinking about moving on from him because of the way that, like I say, he just cannot stay healthy. It's got to be a very frustrating prospect that is. And then Kalen Kyle has announced that he is actually departing from the Apple TV MLS crew. Now, I have definitely heard a lot of people that have been very happy about this announcement, mainly because a lot of people don't like it. Kalen Kyle doing his time with the MLS crew. I think he was part of the MLS 360 crew. He was also part of the pre-game crew as well. A lot of people found her pretty annoying. That is, and especially the hot takes that he has is just kind of a little bit weird. I will also say that one thing I kind of didn't really like about Kalen Kyle, especially related to one of the team I root for, Minnesota United, is the fact that she definitely shows some bias during the time when she was first with Apple TV as well. She really loved the Loons originally and really defended them hard. And for those who wonder why that is the case, well, it's because he was the daughter-in-law of the head coach Adrian Heath as well back then with Minnesota United. But once Adrian Heath got the sack, yeah, that's when Kalen Kyle reputation with the Loons really changed as well. It's almost like it feel like he kind of took that as an insult, even though at the end of the day, it was the right decision that Minnesota move on from Adrian Heath. It was long overdue, but it kind of had a bit of a sour feeling for Kalen Kyle to a point where she's been kind of ridiculing the Loons every single time to a point where you can clearly see there's that bias. And I know there are every single broadcaster is gonna have show their bias towards some team. That's why on this channel I try not to do that, even if sometimes maybe with my favorite team as well. But I'm trying to stay neutral as possible. But yeah, there are gonna be definitely that bias even with the ML as a TV crew as well, but it feels like Caitlin Kyle was pretty blatant in terms of showing that bias, and that's kind of the reason why a lot of people didn't really like her. I mean, a lot of people kind of found her a bit annoying, and also just have really kind of dumb hot takes that didn't really do so well with a lot of people. And then last but not least, MLS have announced that there's going to be 8 teams that will have a third jersey as well. I already mentioned this a little bit. Austin actually debuted one of their third jersey in the game against Club America as well, and I'll probably do a video about that as well. And I also want to mention the fact that the Leeds Cup quarterfinal schedule has also been released. It's gonna be taking place on the middle of the week between August 26th and August 27th as well. And what's kind of interesting when I look at the schedule is that there's only one MLS team that is actually going to be playing in their home for the quarterfinal. Only the Chicago Fire is going to be playing in their designated home. RSL was going to do so, but apparently they had a bit of a conflict with a concert at American First Bill, aka the Riot that is. So they decided to move their game to Colorado because that's like the closest spot that they can move the game. I mean, I feel like they could have easily just moved it somewhere else as well. Why couldn't they just move it to the Monarch Stadium? I mean, I know that it might sound like it's a small stadium, but it's not like the Leeds Cup is a thing that will draw the crowd that is. And them moving to Colorado. I mean, I don't know if a lot of RSL fans would be willing to make that trip, especially in the middle of the week that is to go to that game. And then of course, we have Toluca, of course, playing against I think who were they playing against? I think it was oh god, let me just double check. I think they're playing against Austin, that is, and that game is going to be taking place at a Sports Illustrated field in New York. That is, it's pretty much going to be a Toluca home game. New York has a pretty big Mexican population, and Toluca is definitely one of the big team in Mexico that will draw a lot of crowds, especially of how successful they've been recently. And then lastly, we have Club America playing against Columbus. This game is going to be at Dignity Health Sports Park. You better believe it's a Club America home game. I mean, anytime when one of these big Mexican teams, especially either Club America or Chivas, either of these teams, as soon as they step foot in the LA market or even in the California market in general, it's an instant home game for them. I mean, that place is going to be packed to the rafter with Club America fans that is. And if you're Columbus, yeah, good luck. I mean, trying to they're definitely going to be up against it in that game. To have to pretty much virtually play a road game against Copa America, even though it's a neutral venue site that is. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for this News of the Week episode. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these news, and if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, let me know in the comments below as always. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.